When someone damages you intentionally, it is a deliberate act. They know exactly what they are doing and they understand the consequences it will have on you. Let me be clear, intentional harm reflects more about the person doing it than the one receiving it. Yet, it is your responsibility to respond with wisdom and clarity. When someone damages you intentionally, it's essential to understand the gravity of their actions. People who harm others on purpose are not merely making a mistake or acting out of ignorance. They are fully aware of the pain they are causing. Whether it's emotional, psychological, or even physical damage, the deliberate nature of their actions reveals much about their character and motives. This level of intentional harm is not accidental or impulsive. It often comes from a place of deep-seated insecurity, envy, or unresolved issues within the person inflicting the damage. They may feel threatened by your success, your kindness, or even your potential, and they lash out as a way to assert control or superiority. It's important to recognize that these actions are premeditated, often calculated to hurt you in a specific way. This isn't about you being too sensitive or misunderstanding the situation. When someone deliberately sets out to harm you, they are choosing to put their interests above your well-being. At this point, you need to acknowledge the truth. People reveal who they are by their actions, not their words. When someone intentionally hurts you, they are displaying their values, their level of respect for you, and the kind of relationship they want to have with you. This is crucial to understand because it allows you to move away from making excuses for their behavior. You may be tempted to think they didn't mean it or that the situation was more complicated, but intentional harm speaks volumes. It's not a mistake you can overlook or brush aside. Your self-worth comes into play here. Knowing your value means you recognize that you deserve to be treated with respect, kindness, and dignity. No one has the right to abuse your trust, mistreat you, or diminish your self-esteem. Yet too often we allow harmful people to stay in our lives, thinking we owe them something, whether it's another chance, forgiveness, or even a sense of closure. But here's the truth: you must embrace your self-worth is not tied to how much mistreatment you can endure or how forgiving you can be. It is rooted in the understanding that you deserve better, period. By recognizing your worth, you empower yourself to make decisions that protect your emotional and mental health. One of the most empowering decisions you can make is to not give someone who intentionally damaged you a second chance. When someone shows you who they are, especially through deliberate harm, it's not your responsibility to change them or help them grow. That is a journey they need to embark on themselves. Your focus should be on protecting your peace, not extending forgiveness in the form of another opportunity for them to hurt you again. It's also crucial to shift your mindset from blame to protection. When someone intentionally hurts you, it's easy to fall into the trap of self-blame, thinking you may have caused their behavior. Maybe you were too trusting, too open, or too vulnerable. But let me remind you, you are not responsible for someone else's decision to harm you. Your openness or kindness is not an invitation for mistreatment. The decision to cause pain was theirs alone, and it reflects their lack of character, not your supposed weaknesses. This doesn't mean you should walk through life being suspicious or distrusting of everyone. It means that you need to be discerning. When someone reveals through their actions that they are willing to hurt you for their own gain, you must set boundaries. Boundaries are a reflection of your self-worth. They signal to the world that you will not tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or cruelty. Setting boundaries isn't about holding grudges, it's about preserving your emotional and psychological well-being. Understanding intentional harm also means understanding the dynamics of control and power. People who hurt others deliberately often do so because it gives them a sense of control over the situation or over you. By damaging you, whether through betrayal, harsh words, or harmful actions, they seek to make you feel powerless. They want you to question your worth, your decisions, and sometimes even your reality. In doing so, they position themselves in a place of perceived superiority. But here's the good news: by recognizing the intentional nature of their harm, you take back your power. You regain control by choosing not to allow them back into your life. You affirm that you will no longer be a participant in their game. This is where true healing begins, by understanding that their actions are about them, not you. and by refusing to give them another opportunity to repeat their behavior. Understanding intentional damage is about recognizing the importance of protecting your peace and knowing your value. You don't need to give someone who damaged you intentionally a second chance. You can forgive them, yes, but that doesn't mean you have to reconcile or allow them access to your life again. Your self-worth is far more important than giving anyone the opportunity to diminish it. Knowing your value is a fundamental principle that shapes how you navigate relationships, set boundaries, and make decisions in life. It is the foundation upon which you build your sense of self-worth and self-respect. When you truly understand your value, you develop a clearer perspective on how others should treat you, and you become more attuned to the actions that align or conflict with that understanding. Many people struggle with recognizing their worth because they often confuse it with external validation. They may believe their value is determined by how others perceive them, by their success, or by their ability to please everyone around them. However, this is a dangerous misconception. Your worth is not dictated by external circumstances or the opinions of others. It is intrinsic, meaning it is inherent in who you are, and nothing can take that away. No amount of praise or criticism should define your value. It exists because of the unique combination of qualities, experiences, and potential that only you possess. Understanding your value requires an internal shift in how you see yourself. It begins by acknowledging that you are deserving of love, respect, and kindness simply because you are. This sense of self-worth is not conditional upon your accomplishments, your social status, or your ability to meet other people's expectations. It is unconditional, meaning that regardless of what happens in your life, your value remains intact. Once you grasp the concept of your inherent value, you begin to see that allowing others to mistreat you or take advantage of you is not a reflection of your strength or resilience. Instead, it's a sign that you may need to reassess how you view yourself. People often tolerate disrespect or mistreatment because they believe, consciously or unconsciously, that this is what they deserve. They may think that if they endure enough or are patient enough, others will eventually recognize their value. But this is not how respect works. Respect is not something you earn through suffering or sacrifice. It is something you command through the way you carry yourself and the boundaries you set. When you know your worth, you stop allowing people to treat you in ways that diminish or disrespect you. You realize that you deserve relationships that are built on mutual respect and kindness, not on manipulation or power struggles. In relationships, understanding your value means that you won't settle for less than what you deserve. Whether in friendships, family dynamics, or romantic partnerships, you will expect to be treated with dignity and fairness. This doesn't mean you become arrogant or unyielding. It simply means that you are aware of what is healthy and beneficial for you and will not allow anyone to diminish your sense of self. One of the greatest benefits of knowing your worth is that it allows you to establish and maintain boundaries. Boundaries are essential for protecting your emotional, mental, and even physical well-being. When you lack a clear sense of your value, you might find yourself saying yes when you mean no, or allowing others to take more from you than you are willing to give. This leads to feelings of resentment, frustration, and depletion. But when you know your worth, you understand that it's not selfish to say no, to walk away from toxic situations, or to demand respect. In fact, it's an act of self-care and self-preservation. The beauty of knowing your worth is that it also influences how others see and treat you. People will often treat you according to the standard you set for yourself. If you allow others to disrespect you or take advantage of you, some people will continue to do so. But when you project a sense of self-respect and confidence in your value, you teach others how to interact with you. You set the tone for your relationships and establish that you are not willing to tolerate anything that undermines your well-being or dignity. Knowing your worth empowers you to make better decisions. Whether in your personal or professional life, it gives you the clarity to pursue opportunities and relationships that align with your sense of self-respect. When you value yourself, you are less likely to engage in situations that compromise your integrity or make you feel small. You become more selective about where you invest your time, energy, and resources, focusing only on what brings growth, joy, and fulfillment. This understanding of value also extends to how you treat yourself. It's not just about how others treat you, it's also about how you treat yourself on a daily basis. Do you speak kindly to yourself? Do you invest in your personal growth, health, and happiness? Knowing your value means that you prioritize self-care, personal development, and mental well-being. You make choices that uplift you rather than drain you, because you understand that your relationship with yourself sets the tone for everything else in your life. At the core of knowing your worth is the belief that you are enough just as you are. You don't need to prove your value to anyone, nor do you need to diminish yourself to make others comfortable. The people who truly belong in your life will recognize and respect your value without you having to compromise or diminish who you are. And those who fail to see your worth simply do not deserve a place in your life. Knowing your value is an act of empowerment. It liberates you from the need for approval and frees you from toxic relationships and situations. It helps you to live authentically with a deep sense of confidence and self-respect. By embracing your worth, you create a life that reflects the dignity and respect you deserve, and you build relationships that nourish rather than drain you. Giving someone a second chance after they have intentionally hurt you is often a dilemma filled with emotional complexity. It requires you to weigh the nature of the harm done, the sincerity of the person's remorse, if any, and the potential consequences of opening yourself up to them again. However, when it comes to deliberate damage, especially when someone has shown a clear intent to harm, it's important to understand that second chances are not always the right course of action. The idea of second chances is often rooted in forgiveness, which is a powerful and essential aspect of healing. Forgiveness allows you to release anger and resentment, and it helps you move forward without being held back by the pain of the past. However, forgiveness does not necessarily mean giving someone the opportunity to hurt you again. Forgiveness and reconciliation are two distinct actions. Forgiving someone can be done internally for your peace of mind, but reconciling with them, allowing them back into your life, is a different decision altogether. When someone damages you intentionally, it's not just an isolated incident. It is a reflection of their character and their values. They have shown you their true nature through their actions, and it's critical to take that seriously. People who deliberately cause harm do so with a sense of control or power over the situation. They might be driven by selfish motives, jealousy, or a desire to manipulate. Regardless of the reason, they have chosen to put their own needs or desires above your well-being. This is not the kind of person you should easily welcome back into your life, especially without thorough reflection on the consequences. Often, the notion of giving someone a second chance comes from a place of hope. You might hope that they will change, that they have learned from their mistakes, or that things will be different this time. But this kind of thinking can be dangerous when it comes to someone who has intentionally hurt you. In most cases, people who are willing to inflict deliberate damage are unlikely to change overnight. Their actions were not random or accidental. They were the result of their mindset, values, and perhaps even deeper issues within them that they may not even be ready to address. Giving them a second chance without any evidence of real transformation can set you up for more pain. By allowing someone who has intentionally harmed you back into your life, you risk sending a message that their behavior was acceptable, or at the very least, forgivable without any real consequence. This not only weakens your boundaries, but also empowers the other person to think they can continue to treat you in harmful ways. Second chances, when given too freely, can undermine your self-worth and send the wrong message to both yourself and the person who caused the harm. It's also important to consider that people who hurt others deliberately often do so in patterns. They may have a history of mistreating others or causing pain, and if you overlook this or choose to ignore it, you could be inviting more of the same into your life. The decision to not give a second chance is not about holding grudges or being unforgiving. It's about protecting yourself from repeated harm. Recognizing patterns of behavior is essential for safeguarding your well-being. If someone has shown you that they are capable of hurting you intentionally, there is no guarantee that they won't do it again, even if they promise otherwise. Another critical aspect of this decision is understanding the difference between genuine remorse and manipulative apologies. People who cause intentional harm can sometimes offer apologies not because they feel true regret, but because they want to regain access to you. They may apologize to get back into your life, to restore the benefits they previously enjoyed, or to maintain control over the situation. These apologies can be superficial and are often used as tools of manipulation rather than sincere attempts to make amends. It is essential to discern the difference between genuine remorse and strategic apologies. Genuine remorse is accompanied by actions that show real change, whereas manipulative apologies are often followed by more of the same harmful behavior. When you deny someone who has intentionally hurt you a second chance, you are not being unkind or unfair. On the contrary, you are respecting yourself enough to protect your emotional and mental well-being. You are asserting your boundaries and acknowledging that your peace is more valuable than maintaining a relationship with someone who has proven they do not value you. This decision is about self-care and prioritizing your health, happiness, and future over the potential risk of being hurt again. It is also essential to remember that not giving a second chance does not mean you are bitter or unforgiving. You can forgive someone without allowing them back into your life. Forgiveness is for your own healing. It is a way to release the negative emotions tied to the experience. It allows you to move forward without being weighed down by anger or resentment. However, forgiveness does not mean forgetting the harm done or pretending it didn't happen. It simply means you are no longer allowing that pain to control you, but you are still being wise enough to protect yourself from future harm. In some cases, giving a second chance can lead to growth and healing, but this should only be considered if there is clear evidence of change, genuine remorse, and a commitment to making things right. Even then, it should be approached with caution and with your boundaries firmly in place. The person must demonstrate that they have truly learned from their actions and are committed to doing better, not just for a brief period, but consistently over time. The decision to not give a second chance to someone who intentionally harmed you is an act of self-respect. It reflects your understanding that you deserve better than to be treated with disregard or malice. It shows that you are willing to prioritize your own well-being over the fleeting hope that someone else might change. In doing so, you create space for healthier relationships and opportunities for growth, while safeguarding your peace and protecting your heart from further harm. Trust is one of the most fragile elements in any relationship, whether personal or professional. It is the foundation upon which every meaningful connection is built, and without it, relationships struggle to thrive. When someone deliberately damages you, they not only harm you emotionally or physically, but they also break the trust that once existed. Once trust is shattered, it is incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to fully restore. This is why it is important to think carefully before considering giving someone a second chance, especially when that breach of trust was intentional. When trust is broken, it leaves behind a sense of vulnerability and betrayal that is hard to shake. Trust is not something that can be easily repaired with a simple apology or a few kind words. It takes time, consistent effort, and a sincere commitment to change in order to rebuild it. But when someone damages you intentionally, it raises serious questions about their character and their capacity for genuine change. If they were willing to harm you deliberately once, what assurance do you have that they won't do it again? Rebuilding trust requires more than just time. It requires evidence of genuine transformation. Unfortunately, when intentional harm has been done, the motivation behind it is often rooted in deeper issues, such as selfishness, control, or a lack of empathy. These are not traits that change overnight. It takes significant self-reflection and a willingness to address underlying personal flaws for someone to make the necessary adjustments to become trustworthy again. Without seeing clear evidence of this inner work, it's risky to assume that trust can ever be restored to its previous state. The damage caused by the intentional breach of trust doesn't just affect the relationship in question, it can have a broader impact on how you approach relationships in general. Once someone breaks your trust in such a deliberate way, you may find it difficult to open up to others or to trust anyone fully. This is a natural defense mechanism. Your mind and emotions are trying to protect you from experiencing that kind of pain again. While this is a valid and understandable response, it also highlights just how deeply trust, once broken, can affect your entire worldview. It's also important to acknowledge that the person who harmed you may not fully understand the extent of the damage they have done. They might offer apologies or promises to change, but these words often fall short when it comes to repairing trust. Trust is rebuilt not with promises, but with consistent actions over time. The problem with intentional harm is that it comes from a place of deliberate choice. The person made a conscious decision to betray your trust, which indicates a fundamental disregard for your well-being. This is not a mistake made in the heat of the moment, but rather a calculated action that reflects their true intentions at the time. In many cases, when someone asks for a second chance, they are seeking forgiveness without fully grasping the depth of the hurt they've caused. They may believe that a simple apology or a brief change in behavior is enough to reset the relationship. However, trust is far more complex than that. It involves a deep emotional investment and a sense of security that, once lost, is not easily regained. Rebuilding that foundation requires the person to demonstrate time and time again that they are worthy of your trust, something that is especially difficult when the original damage was intentional. Another key factor to consider is how the breach of trust impacts your sense of self. When someone you trusted deliberately harms you, it can cause you to question your own judgment. You might wonder why you didn't see the warning signs or if you were somehow responsible for the betrayal. This self-doubt can erode your confidence, making it even harder to rebuild trust with others in the future. Recognizing that the harm done was not your fault is crucial to regaining your sense of self-worth and moving forward. But this realization doesn't necessarily mean that you should offer the person a second chance, especially if their actions have left a lasting scar on your ability to trust. Giving someone who has intentionally damaged you a second chance can set a dangerous precedent. It may send the message that you are willing to overlook serious breaches of trust, which can encourage future transgressions. People who have caused intentional harm often test boundaries, and if they believe they can regain your trust with minimal effort, they may be more likely to repeat their behavior. By not giving them a second chance, you are establishing a clear boundary that communicates your self-respect and the seriousness of the harm they caused. It's also worth considering that trust is not just about the specific relationship in question. It extends to how you interact with the world. Trust is a key component of healthy, functional relationships, whether they are personal or professional. When someone intentionally damages your trust, they compromise your ability to engage fully and openly with others. If you allow this person back into your life without requiring substantial change, you risk carrying the burden of mistrust into other areas of your life as well. This can affect your friendships, family dynamics, and even your work relationships, as the lingering effects of that betrayal make it harder for you to connect with others on a meaningful level. The decision to not give a second chance is not about holding a grudge or being unwilling to forgive. It's about recognizing that trust is fragile and precious, and once it has been intentionally broken, it may never be the same again. Trust requires a foundation of mutual respect, honesty, and care. When someone deliberately undermines that foundation, it shows a fundamental disregard for the relationship and for you as an individual. Choosing not to offer a second chance is a way of protecting yourself from further harm and ensuring that your future relationships are built on a solid foundation of trust and respect. It's about preserving your peace of mind and your emotional well-being. While it is possible for people to change, intentional harm creates a deep rupture in trust that is often too significant to repair. It's better to safeguard your heart and your future by recognizing that some breaches of trust are simply too great to overcome. And that's okay. Trust, once broken in such a deliberate way, is incredibly hard to restore, and it's important to prioritize your well-being over the possibility of reconciliation with someone who has shown a disregard for your trust in the past. When someone intentionally harms you, it's essential to recognize that this act goes beyond just the damage done in that moment. It speaks to a deeper issue of respect, or rather, the lack of it. Respect is the foundation of any healthy relationship, whether personal, professional, or even casual. So it is the recognition of another person's value, feelings, and boundaries. When a person chooses to harm you intentionally, they are showing a blatant disregard for that respect. They are, in essence, telling you that your feelings, your well-being, and your trust do not matter to them as much as whatever motivated their harmful actions. This lack of respect is not something to be taken lightly, and it's crucial to understand that respect cannot simply be restored with an apology or a second chance. Respect, like trust, is built over time through actions, and when someone's actions demonstrate a willingness to intentionally cause you harm, they are showing you who they truly are in that moment. Their behavior is a clear indicator of how little they value you. If someone does not respect you, then they will not hesitate to hurt you again, especially if they feel that there are no real consequences for their actions. Respect is often demonstrated through boundaries. Boundaries are the limits we set for how we expect others to treat us and how we are willing to engage with the world. When someone intentionally hurts you, they are crossing a boundary that you may not have even realized you needed to enforce. They are signaling that they are willing to disregard your feelings and needs to satisfy their own desires, whether that be for control, power, or even just to win an argument. This violation of boundaries is not something that can be easily repaired because it speaks to a fundamental lack of regard for your autonomy and personal space. When someone lacks respect for you, they also lack the ability to truly empathize with your experience. They are not considering how their actions will affect you in the long term or how deeply their behavior may hurt. This absence of empathy further highlights why a second chance may not be warranted in cases of intentional harm. If someone does not respect you enough to consider your feelings before they act, why would you expect them to change that behavior after the fact? Without respect, there is no foundation for growth, healing, or improvement in the relationship. In many cases, people who intentionally harm others do so because they are focused solely on their own needs or wants. They may lack the emotional maturity to handle conflict or difficult emotions in a healthy way, or they may be driven by selfish motives that prioritize their own well-being over yours. This kind of self-centered behavior is the antithesis of respect, and it is unlikely to change simply because they've been given a second chance. People who act with such disregard for others are often more concerned with what they stand to gain or lose than with how their actions impact those around them. Respect is not just about how someone treats you in isolated incidents, it's about a consistent pattern of behavior. Someone who truly respects you will show that respect in the way they communicate, the way they handle disagreements, and the way they navigate challenges in the relationship. They will be mindful of your feelings and boundaries, even when it's difficult or inconvenient for them. On the other hand, someone who intentionally harms you is demonstrating a pattern of behavior that is rooted in disrespect. Even if they apologize or promise to change, if their actions have already shown a willingness to disregard your boundaries, it is likely that they will continue to do so in the future. One of the dangers of giving someone who has intentionally harmed you a second chance is that it may send the message that their behavior is acceptable or that you are willing to tolerate disrespect. This can embolden them to continue treating you poorly because they know that there will be little to no consequences for their actions. In this way, allowing someone back into your life after they've shown a lack of respect can set a dangerous precedent. It can open the door to further harm and reinforce a dynamic where your needs and feelings are consistently disregarded. Respect also plays a critical role in your own self-worth. When you allow someone who has disrespected you back into your life, you may be sending a message to yourself that your boundaries and well-being are not as important as maintaining the relationship. This can lead to a cycle of low self-esteem, where you begin to question your own value and worth because you are consistently allowing others to disrespect you. By choosing not to give someone a second chance, especially when they have intentionally harmed you, you are affirming your own self-worth. You are telling yourself and them that you deserve to be treated with respect and that you are not willing to tolerate behavior that undermines your dignity. It's also important to consider the long-term effects of disrespect in relationships. When someone continually disrespects you, it can have a lasting impact on your mental and emotional health. Over time, the constant erosion of your boundaries and self-esteem can lead to anxiety, depression, and a sense of helplessness. By refusing to give a second chance to someone who has intentionally harmed you, you are protecting yourself from these long-term consequences. You are taking a stand for your own well-being and refusing to allow anyone to chip away at your sense of self-worth. Respect is not something that can be negotiated or compromised. It is either present in a relationship or it is not. When someone intentionally harms you, they are showing a clear lack of respect for you as a person. This is not something that can be easily repaired, and it's unlikely to change without significant effort and self-reflection on their part. By not giving a second chance, you are reinforcing the importance of respect in your life and ensuring that you are surrounded by people who truly value and honor you. You are choosing to prioritize your own well-being over the possibility of reconciliation with someone who has shown that they do not respect you. This is not an act of bitterness or unforgiveness, but rather a decision to protect your peace, your boundaries, and your self-worth. In conclusion, when someone intentionally harms you, it's crucial to recognize the gravity of their actions. Intentional harm reflects a deep disregard for your trust, well-being, and boundaries. Trust and respect, once shattered, are incredibly difficult to rebuild, and offering a second chance without evidence of genuine transformation risks further damage to your self-worth and emotional health. By not giving a second chance to those who deliberately cause you harm, you protect yourself from repeated betrayal, reinforce your boundaries, and affirm your own value. This is not about holding on to anger or resentment, but about making a conscious decision to prioritize your own well-being and ensuring that those who remain in your life truly honor and respect you. You deserve relationships built on trust, respect, and care, and by standing firm in your decisions, you create space for healthier, more fulfilling connections.